We think about tension as a bad thing. I want you to instead think of it as a force that accomplishes something. For instance, tension in the sails of this sailboat are what make this a great day on the water. That's the right amount of tension in those sails. Interestingly enough, if there's no wind, there's no tension. This is still a great place to sit in the sun and drink a couple of cold beers, but you're not going sailing. And the reason for that is the force that produces great sailing, which is wind, there's no tension in the sails, and therefore we're not going to get to go sailing that day. On the other hand, too much tension in the sails is catastrophic, and it's going to lead to a dangerous outcome. So tension in and of itself is neither good nor bad. It's a force that can produce change. And your job is to really understand tension and to understand how it can impact change and how to keep it at the right level. Here's the way to look at tension and productivity. So on this graph, we've got productivity on one axis and we have tension on the other axis. We often think about tension as fighting, right? and then arguing, and clearly that's at the far end of the tension curve. When there's low tension, it's usually caused by the fact that we're not talking about the things that really need to be talked about. And when that's the case, with you as managers, right? There's something you need to talk to an employee about, but you don't really want to talk to him about it. You know it's not going to go well, so you don't. You sort of ignore it. You hope it'll go away, right? Tension is lower than having that conversation, but productivity is low because it doesn't get any better. On the other end, right, when tension is very, very high and we're arguing and I'm getting defensive and I'm being real careful about what I say and I'm not really telling everything so in order to protect myself, tension is very high and productivity is low. But what it shows us, there's this sweet spot in the middle called productive tension. And that's where you need to be in your presentations. That's where the relationship gets strengthened. It's working through difficult issues together, right, and really learning about each other and becoming a team. And most of you live on one side of that tension curve or the other. And what you've got to do is you've got to learn to move towards the middle wherever you are there. And I call that graceful assertiveness. And that if you learn to be gracefully assertive, then you've got the most likelihood of helping the other people in the room begin to discuss and feel comfortable focusing on the issue and not on the people. So in that boardroom, in that conference room, with that other person across the desk, you can't change them. But if you get really good at graceful assertiveness, so if you're on the high tension side and you learn to speak the truth, but you learn to speak it with compassion, you learn to say it in ways that the other side doesn't feel attacked. Maybe you don't say it in the meeting, you say it one-on-one to them in the office. You think about the timing of when to say these things. So if you learn to speak the truth with compassion, oftentimes the other person will move towards the productive tension. If you're a low tension person, if you learn to have the courage to speak up and to say things, to take a chance, the odds are you're going to say it because that's who you are. You're going to say it gracefully. That's not an issue with you. It's having the courage to speak up. And if you learn to speak the truth and say the things that need to be said, you'll oftentimes bring the other people to the middle. And so you have more impact than you think you do as you begin to develop your ability to be gracefully assertive.